The following program was paid for by the friends and partners of WLMB-TV 40 Toledo.
If you're going into the Christmas season with this dread, oh, I don't want to do that again, don't just live with that dread. God does not say in the Bible anywhere that you have to put up a Christmas tree or have a certain thing.
Well, we want to welcome you to another episode of Main Street, the fastest half hour in television. I'm Dr. Jamey Schmitz, and of course I'm joined by my co-host for many years, more years than you can possibly count, Virginia Bossa.
Well, I don't know about that, Jamie, but you know what? It is going to be a fabulous show. We're going to be talking about the clutter in our lives. You know, maybe you've got a closet or a drawer that's a little cluttered, but we're going to go beyond that and kind of check out our spiritual clutter. And so today's guest, she is going to be talking about clearing the clutter in our schedule, home, and spirit. We have with us speaker and author of Organizing for Joyful Holidays, Shannon Upton. Welcome, Shannon. Great to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Shannon, thank you for joining us here on Main Street. Shannon, would you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself, your ministry, and you know, the name of your ministry, Organizing You?
Yes, so I am a Christian writer and speaker. I speak at a lot of churches, women's events, and retreats, and have written some books about organizing to clear out your spiritual clutter. Because for me, organizing really is a ministry. It's not about organizing to get organized. It's about using that as a tool to clear out the anxieties and worries we have in our spirits. Those feelings that we're not good enough, or we're not doing what God calls us to do, or being just a good enough daughter or son of God. And I believe that you can use organization to relax yourself, to relax in your own home, to clear out those feelings and just enjoy your family and grow closer to God.
Very good. Why did you write Organizing for Joyful Holidays?
You know, many years ago, I went to a Christmas tea that happened every year, and there was always a speaker, and the speaker would often talk about something sad that had happened, and always at the beginning of the talk or at the end would make jokes about how awful the Christmas season was. Was everybody ready to be stressed out? And I always thought, that's not what I would talk about. You know, if I was going to get up there, I would talk about how wonderful the Christmas season is and how organizing a little bit and preparing for it can help you embrace the joy of the holidays and enjoy that closeness with the Lord that you can have during December. And so when I did start speaking, right away I offered a Christmas talk, and that became one of my most popular ones. And women would come up to me and say, I am actually excited for Christmas this year. So when I was given the opportunity to write a series of handbooks, you know, smaller topical books about organizing for certain things, Organizing for Joyful Holidays was at the top of the list.
Well, that's awesome. We all love to hear a positive voice. You know, so what kind of spiritual clutter do people often experience around the holidays?
Oh, just like I said, those speakers said, people get so stressed out and they look at it as a huge to-do list. They get overwhelmed. They feel like everything has to be perfect and do and go during December. And that's not how God wants us to celebrate the coming of our Savior.
That's right.
That's right. How can getting organized bring more joy into our holiday season?
Oh, well, right away, if you get a little organized and feel prepared, you're going to take your stress level down. Just knowing as you go into the season, I can do this, I'm prepared, I know when I'm going to do it and how. That brings such a level of peace to you. And then when you go to wrap your presents and you have Scotch tape and wrapping paper and everything you need and can just wrap and don't have to worry about running out to the store and getting those last minute things, that's a more peaceful experience as well. And I believe that by getting organized, which is just another way to say being intentional, like I really am going to do it this way, you can intentionally bring joy in by deciding, so, you know, maybe I'm not looking forward to writing my Christmas cards this year. I'm going to play some Christmas music and get a cup of hot chocolate and really relax and pray over each name as I'm writing it. You can decide to be joyful.
Well, how has, writing this book helped you personally?
That is a great question. When I write my books, I'm kind of naturally organized, and I've read a lot and researched a lot. So when I go to write my books, I always think I know what I'm going to say. And then as I'm writing, I very prayerfully consider every kind of reader. I think, this reader who is not like me in this way, who's not an organized person, what do they need? And I write a lot of options. You might want to try this, you might want to try that. And as I do that, I start to discover things that I would like to do. And by the end of a book like Organizing for Joyful Holidays, I think, this is how I want to do Christmas. So I learn a lot from it. And then at the end of this book, there is a worksheet to go through to prayerfully prepare for Christmas. And I go back and do that worksheet myself every year. And I hope that for the reader that they will go back and go over that worksheet every year and use it as a great resource too.
Yeah. Shannon, how would you recommend people start planning and get organized for the holidays?
So I would recommend about 6 weeks to a month maybe before Christmas, sitting down and taking a quiet, prayerful time with your calendar and a to-do list to write out, and just pray over, what do I want to do this holiday season? So on the calendar, marking out not only this is when my Christmas party is, this is when we're going caroling with friends, but marking out places where this is where I'm going to bake. This is the day I'm going to work on my cards. This is the day I'm going to wrap, so that you have some time set aside and you're not thinking all of the time, I should be wrapping, I should get those presents wrapped. You're thinking, I'm going to wrap on that day, and setting it enough ahead of time that if it doesn't happen that day, you've got some cushion and you can move it back. So that right there is going to settle your spirit. And also thinking about the things you'll need. So that's where you think about that Scotch tape. You think about the ingredients you'll need for baking and writing a nice shopping list up. Just that right there, 1 hour of really prayerful planning time can change your whole season.
Absolutely. So how can people clear out some of the stress that may surround holiday traditions? Those things like we feel like we have to do year after year.
Yes, that's really hard because a lot of people go into a holiday season thinking, this is the part I'm dreading. This is the thing that I don't want to do. And I had a friend say to me several years ago, she said, I skip one thing every year. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, like, 1 year I didn't put up my Christmas tree, and 1 year I didn't bake cookies, and 1 year I didn't send out cards. I know, and she was a young mom, with little kids, and of course my instant thought was, I could never do that,
Right.
But she said, Shannon, just try it, because what it does is give your spirit this lift of, this year, I don't have to do that. I don't have to worry about that. And then she said, the following year, you're so much more excited to do that thing because you missed it.
And she feel like it's a choice?
Yes, it's a choice. And she said, your kids are just excited to get to do it again, and everybody lives, And I thought, I don't know, but I did give it a try, and it turns out you can, in fact,
What did you skip?
I skipped baking Christmas cookies, which in my house, in my big family, I am the person that comes with the tray this big of cookies. That's my job. And so to not do that, I said, I'm going to make a cheesecake instead, which is, hours and hours less work, right, than all those cookies. And what ended up happening was, through the season, I thought, I don't have to make Christmas cookies this year. I try to make them like 2 days before Christmas so they're really fresh and good. And that opened up that last minute time so much. I was all relaxed, and then I got to those couple of days before Christmas, and I thought, I'm going to try a new recipe. I made my cheesecake and thought, I'll try this. And I ended up making more cookies that year than I had ever made. We took a huge tray to the firemen because I had so much more joy trying new things. Right. So my second tip is, if you feel like you just can't skip it, to go ahead and change it up. Do something differently. So I have a friend that has decided she's not making cookies anymore. She makes a breakfast casserole she'll put together in little tin pans and deliver it to us on Christmas Eve so that we all have fresh casseroles for Christmas morning. And I have another friend that does not do a Christmas tree anymore. She decorates her mantle really beautifully and uses the presents as kind of decor around her mantle. The point is, if you're going into the Christmas season with this dread of, oh, I don't want to do that again, don't just live with that dread. God does not say in the Bible anywhere that you have to put up a Christmas tree or have a certain thing. Instead, think, how can I skip that this year, or how can I do it differently so I can do it joyfully?
Now, all those moms out there aren't going to be making cookies this season. And the guys are going to be saying, hey, that's Shannon.
Shannon, let me ask you this. How would you recommend getting organized for the specific category of Christmas shopping?
Oh, that is a great question, because I am not a shopper. Of all of the things about Christmas that I dread, it is shopping. And that is a really hard thing to skip, especially when you have kids. I do think you could technically skip it. You could say, I'm going to get gift cards to everybody and put them in pretty paper bags. You could also, I have a family that I grew up with that we bought each other presents every year. And one year when I was in high school, the moms decided not to buy presents for each other anymore. And they took all the money that they would have spent on those presents and bought peanut butter for our local food pantry. And at the centerpiece for the table, they took the jars of peanut butter and made a tree and wrapped ribbon around it. And it was really neat. So those are ways you can kind of get out of the shopping or skip the presents. But if you do decide that you're going to do the shopping, one thing that has changed in the last few years is how much people are shopping online, right? And my recommendation for that is, it is so easy to think, I'm just gonna pop on and order this thing real quick, or do it on your phone while your kids are running around you. And that is really stressful to try to do that. You almost never find it as quickly as you think, or for the price you want. You forget to check where it's shipping from, and it ends up not coming in until after Christmas. So just like I said with the Christmas cards, set a time, get a cup of hot chocolate, play your Christmas music, decide when you're going to do your online shopping. And then there are going to be things that you do want to go to the store for. And so my recommendation there is, don't write a list by person. So don't say, like, for my dad, I want to get this and this. For my sister, I want to get this and this. Instead, write a list by store. So at this store, I want to get this for my dad, this for my sister, this just for me. And so when you write it by store, that way when you go into the store, you know exactly what you're looking for, you're more relaxed. I would start at the furthest away store and work your way back toward your house. So if you run out of energy and steam, you know that the things that you have left are close by. It's all a mind game, right? To get yourself to relax.
Well, very good.
Well, what tips do you have to simplify decorating for the holidays?
Decorating is one of my favorite things to talk about when it comes to the holidays. I love decorating. I will say, we're living in a society right now where with decorating, less is more, but for Christmas, more is more, right? Everybody loves Christmas decor inside and outside their house. And one thing that I do think is very helpful is, when you're getting out your Christmas decorations this year, actually look at them and decide if you like them. I think there are so many things that we put away and we get out and put up, and it just every year. Christmas decorations are things we often get as gifts, or we pick up on sale after the holidays, and we might decide later they're just not really for us. They don't go with our home anymore, or they might have 10 or 15 years ago. So let go of those things that you don't love. If there are heirlooms or things you just can't let go of, start a box for the kids in your life, for your own kids, for your nieces or nephews, your neighbor kids, somebody that you love. Write a note about why it's special to you, and then go ahead and let that go to them. And give that to them when they get their first apartment or their first home. If they decide that they don't want to keep it, you'll never know,
That's
right?
That's
you
right.
can just let that go. In terms of scaling down, one thing that you could do is just decide, this year I'm only going to decorate one room. Like, I'm just going to decorate the kitchen because that's where we are the most, or our family room. That can be joyful. The rest of the house can stay calm, especially if you're a person that gets overwhelmed with clutter. That's a way that you can take down the time and the effort, and also keep your heart calmer. And also, to prepare for next year, when you're packing up Christmas decorations, I really recommend having a box for every room. So having a box or two, if you have more stuff, for the kitchen, for the living room, for the family room. So that way, when you put things away, you're just putting the things for that room, they're easy to put in, they're easy to get out. If the box isn't full, that's okay. It's great to open it and it looks easy when you see it next year. I'd even take a couple of pictures on your phone, just take, a shot of each wall in your room so you know this is how I liked it, and it'll make it easier for you to do next year.
Well, great ideas. Well, we're going to hear some more advice from Shannon about entertaining and hosting for the holidays when we come back.
A little bit of organization really did help me. Having my house at kind of a dull roar, basically picked up helped. Having a less stressful schedule was helpful, but I had to surrender the perfectionism, comparing myself to other women, putting all these expectations on myself that were not God's expectations.
Well, we're talking with author Shannon Upton, and she's written her new handbook, Organizing for Joyful Holidays. And so we're going to continue, talking about organizing. So what advice do you have for entertaining or hosting Christmas with your friends or family?
I love the topic of entertaining so much that I've actually written a separate handbook called Organizing for Christian Hospitality. That's all about that. But the specific thing I would say for Christmas is when you're sitting down and planning that calendar out, be sure that for your party, you're not just planning, okay, so this is the night of my party. You're blocking out time beforehand to clean, to cook, to get prepared, and a little time afterward also to clean up and deal with what's happened in the party. I also would recommend that instead of trying to make a completely perfect party and a bash in every way, think about how the Lord has gifted you as a host or hostess and focus on that one thing. So if you love to cook, go all out and cook a beautiful meal, but let it be on paper plates. Don't worry about a huge centerpiece. If you love the decor and you want to set this beautiful table, make a huge centerpiece, and then go to GFS and get some food. I personally love to do games, and so I will, plan activities for the kids and games that the adults can do too, and maybe have a potluck. And if you're cutting back this year, this may be the year to just do pizza and paper plates or let somebody else host it.
All right. Shannon, a little bit different line of question, but what advice do you have for traveling and visiting with family or friends?
I am really blessed that my family is all pretty local, but I did write a blog post called Beyond the Packing List, and I talked about how I tend to have this fabulous packing list where I've thought through everything we're going to need. I get super prepared, but then when we leave, I can't seem to let go of what actually happens. It's not perfect and I am worried about it. Mm-hmm. So my biggest recommendation for those traveling is set those expectations at a reasonable level. I don't want to say lower them, but just set reasonable expectations. And if there's traffic, if your plane is delayed, view it as an adventure. And if you're with your family and things aren't exactly as you'd wish, give grace and love. Christmas does not have to be perfect to be beautiful.
That's right. That's right. Well, what's your favorite holiday organization tip?
My favorite organization tip by far is that you don't have to get organized for this Christmas if you're thinking about next year. Write yourself some notes. So when you're doing your favorite recipes, write notes on the recipes like, yes, I do use an extra half teaspoon of vanilla in this. When you're doing your Christmas card list, mark out the people that you've stopped exchanging with, write in the new baby names. And write yourself notes. One year I thought, I'm going to write myself a letter this year. And there are things in that letter like, Shannon, you don't have to do this. Nobody cares. So you don't have to. And things that, like, Shannon, do this 2 weeks early. You'll be so much happier. And the next year I got out that letter and laughed. I'd forgotten I even wrote it, and I found it and I thought, I am so smart, And we're all so smart. We all go through it and think, I wish I did this differently. Well, next year you can. So that's my favorite tip.
And how would you encourage someone who is struggling to find joy this holiday season due to busyness?
I would just say, take the godly view on this. How does God look at your holiday and all of your efforts? He is happy that you want to celebrate the birth of his son, and he doesn't need all of the extra. So this would be just giving yourself some grace, taking a look not at what you feel like you have to do, but at what you want to do and why you want to do it. Just taking some prayerful time to settle down and maybe cutting out some of those things.
Well, and speaking of Christ, how can we intentionally focus on Christ more during the holidays?
One of my most favorite things that I've done with my kids during the holidays is when they were little, we used to pick a scent like peppermint or gingerbread or evergreen, and that would be our Jesus scent for Christmas. So whenever we smelled it, when we were out at a store and there was something that was, scratch and sniff or a candle, we would stop and just take a moment and just feel Jesus's presence and lift up a prayer of thanks to him. And that right there centered our hearts so much on the Lord. Another thing I've done is that when I'm out Christmas shopping, I'll stop at a church that's maybe a little further from my house I've not been to before and spend a moment in prayer in front of their nativity. I have so many ideas like this that there is an entire chapter in Organizing for Joyful Holidays about it. And I just think we can make every part of the holiday season about the Lord, because it is.
Absolutely. Well, tell us more about your handbook, Organizing for Joyful Holidays.
Right. So it's a handbook size, so you can read it in 2 to 3 hours, and it's an ebook. So you can, if you have an e-reader, that's awesome. If you don't, you can get the free Amazon reader and read it on your computer or your tablet. But as you go through, it just walks you through a process of thinking about how close are you to Christ during the holidays. What is your attitude about the work, and what might you want to cut out? What do you really want to do? It kind of takes you through a heart process. And then there are all kinds of, like I said, there is a list of ways you can grow closer to Christ during the holidays. There's a scripture list for every holiday, scriptures that you can use to either meditate on yourself or maybe frame and put out as part of your decor. And at the very end, there is that reflection sheet where you can pray through and organize for a holiday. As I said, I do it every year, but also this handbook is about more than Christmas. It's about Easter and Thanksgiving and the 4th of July and every holiday. So I've had people read it and say, I was reading this for Christmas, but now I'm excited for Thanksgiving or Easter. And I really do think it's a wonderful resource.
Yeah. Shannon, how did you decide to kind of get involved in this whole field of organizing? I mean, why are you so passionate about it?
When I was a young mom, I developed postpartum anxiety, which is similar to postpartum depression, but instead of feeling very sad, I was very scared and very concerned that something was going to happen to the baby or to me or to my family. And I was an organized person to begin with, and I started to kind of cling to that. If I could just be organized, I would feel better. And what I discovered was a little bit of organization really did help me. Having my house at kind of a dull roar, basically picked up helped. Having a less stressful schedule was helpful. But I had to surrender the perfectionism, comparing myself to other women, putting all these expectations on myself that were not God's expectations. And I realized that I really love organization, and I do view it as a tool, but not the way that other books and other speakers were presenting it. And after that time of anxiety was over, that lasted about 4 years, I felt the Lord calling me into this ministry. And I've been doing it for about 10 years. It has been such a blessing.
And Shannon, would you mind sharing some of us, with us, maybe some of the testimonies or success stories that your ministry has birthed in the lives of other families? Maybe some of the reports that you've gotten back from people taking some of your advice.
Oh, I get a lot of emails and I meet a lot of people, especially when I am speaking. I do a lot of return gigs, so I'll speak at a women's event and then they'll have me back the next year or the year after that.
That's always a good thing, right?
Oh, yes, right. I have a lot of repeat business like that. And so when I come back a year later or 2 years later, women just come up to me and I am so blessed. This sounds braggy, but really it is all the Lord. They will come up to me and just weep, just cry. Aww. And talk about how their life has changed and how they are feeling so much more peaceful. They're growing closer to the Lord. in particular, young moms, in particular, women who thought that they were very organized and probably were trying to be too organized and have been able to relax. And also women who felt like, I'm just completely out of control, and then realized that they're not, they're doing okay, and that doing just a little bit is really helpful. So it is a blessing.
Yeah.
Well, you know, you talk about organizing and simplifying your life, and I know that this will speak to many people as we're heading into the holiday season, you know. And so how can people find out more about you, maybe have you come and speak, you know, and pick up your books?
Yes. Well, for individuals, I would say the best way that I can help them is through the books. Those books are me speaking. I do not have a lot of writing background. I really am more of a public speaker, so they're written in a very conversational way. And I would say, get on Amazon, you know, put in Shannon Upton organizing books, and they'll pop right up, starting with Organizing You, which was my first book, and then Building Your House, which was the sequel. And then I do have the handbooks. Organizing for Joyful Holidays is one. But if you're looking to have me come speak, my website is organizingjesusmoms.com, and I would send everybody there for information about speaking. I'm also doing some private Christian coaching to help women who really want one-on-one help to get organized or to be intentional about a particular area in their life. And there's tons of resources on there. There's the blog, I have a lot of printables. There's something for everybody.
Very good. Shannon, would you give our viewers kind of a final challenge today?
Yes, I would love to. So if you've been listening to this and you're thinking, I'm gonna get organized this year, I am ready, I am so excited for you, but I want to challenge you not to make Christmas all about what you do and what you accomplish and how organized you are, but also about what you choose to receive this Christmas. And I hope that you will be able to sit in church and relax and realize that Jesus came for me. He came for you, and I want you to hear him in the hymns and the carols. I want you to see him in the lights and in the joy of your family. I want you to receive Christmas this year and just fill up your heart with that peace and love.
Very good. Great challenge. Shannon, just want to say to you and your family, Merry Christmas. Will you come back and visit us on Main Street again?
I would love to.
Very good. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Shannon. And we hope you've enjoyed today's show and that you will have a joyful holiday season as you get organized. Be sure to pick up Shannon's book. And join us next week for another great episode of Main Street.
We hope that Main Street has been a blessing to you today. Please feel free to contact the following to learn more about the topics discussed on today's show. WLMB would like to thank all the faithful supporters of WLMB that make this program possible.